departments than most politicians will do in their entire lives. His platform also had some decent anti-immigration policies in it too, despite being from a country that literally has the promotion of migration by the state baked into its constitution. Fun little fact you might not have known there: Argentina is one of the only countries in the world that does this. And yet Milei proposed residency fees, deportation of criminals, and prohibition of criminal foreign nationals to begin with. Honestly, I think that's a great start, great immigration policy. And it's not as if all of the other candidates were just chomping at the bit demanding the border was going to be shut anyway. And as for the final bit of debunking I have to do today, yes, his picture is on the WEF's website. I get it, it's alarming. But the same can be said for many people. In terms of what Milei has actually, communicated regarding this, last December he mentioned that he has not been in it for a long time and is one of the biggest detractors of the 2030 agenda. I mean, come and throw your photo up. This is not a end-of-the-world scenario, particularly if he's speaking up against them now. Look, once again, Milei is probably not going to be everything you want him to be. He's probably not going to be perfect. Heck, he probably can't do everything he wants to do either, given his coalition doesn't have a parliamentary majority. But he's also likely going to be a hell of a lot better than most politicians. It's change that Argentinians have been begging for and desperately needed. Would you rather have business as usual? Or someone who is pledging to tear up the state that's blocking anything good from happening? We also would not have this problem of such great disappointment in blackpilling if we didn't idolize political figures in the first place and build them up as the second coming. The real world is messy, and perhaps we should take whatever progress we can get, even if that progress turns out to be an ANCAP anime enjoyer. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and be sure to hit like and subscribe. Do you guys feel that? It's kind of feeling like it's 2016 again. You're telling me a bombastic populist figure with a funny hairstyle who says insanely offensive things has been called far-right and every other slander by the media, and who nobody thought could actually win, has just been voted in as president of a country in America. Well, I mean, America, this time not quite the United States, but far, far down south at the bottom of the Southern American continent, the land of silver, Argentina. Javier Milei, the leader of the country's Libertarian Party, has officially become the world's first president who is aligned with the ideology. I can feel my 18-year-old self just bursting with glee at this fact. If you followed me for a while, you might remember that I actually ran as a Libertarian Party candidate in 2015 myself. I didn't do so well, not gonna lie, but that's probably because Canada just wasn't ready for such a radical shift, unlike Argentina. Parliamentary House. And I gotta say, straight from a couple of years in the parliament to president, that really is a meteoric rise to fame. So how did this even happen? I mean, I get throwing one party out when they're not doing too well in government and then voting in the next, but going to a man who at one point suggested he wasn't against the selling of human organs or children on the free market, that's a hell of a... They would have called you absolutely quacking crazy. To put it simply, Argentina was in an absolute mess. Their inflation rate is through the roof, and they have massive debts to pay back to the IMF. To put it simply, they have an even worse state of the economy than Canada under Castro Jr. The people were looking for a radical solution, and the man that stands proudly with a Gadsden flag declaring that the problems in the country are because of radical commies that have destroyed their economy, he became heard this situation is. It's not unheard of for a new candidate to come out of nowhere and win surprisingly. You could point to Emmanuel Macron's rise to power in France back in 2017. He even set up his own party then too, just like Milei did, and he was able to take office, but without the same shock. All of this is true about Macron, but he was not really a part of a third-party takeover the way Milei is. The party had seemingly collapsed against two new challengers, but in reality, Macron was business as usual, just dressed up in a different suit and a tie, and with none of the actual literal baggage of the previous administration. This time, Milei was up against Sergio Massa, the current finance minister. In this case, the population went for an actual radical, and not the man who was really the successor to an incumbent party. All of these things had to come together in order to allow for Milei's rise. And to that I say, good for the libertarians. It must feel nice to have a win for once, to actually have a real out there, third-party win. Despite Milei being a libertarian win here, some people, including myself at the start of this video, have compared him to President Trump. And I do think that's fair to an extent, the person or not, with them viewing him as a savior of the country from the leftards he so despises. And so, he deserves to be celebrated as the next best thing since sliced bread, right? He's going to crush those commies, make those liberals seethe with every breath he takes. What could possibly go wrong here? Well, of course, there have certainly been doubts cast on him. A lot of his detractors from the right have pointed, what the hell, lads? I thought Milei was the lion ready to roar and destroy feminism, Marxism, and create my new super cool far-right paradise. But he says he doesn't care about drugs, prostitution, and that free immigration is wonderful and fabulous. It is so over, so over. And to boot, he's a member of the World Economic Forum? Ugh, I thought we were already as over as we could have possibly been, and now we're even more over than I already thought. Hold your horses there, hold your horses. Listen, Indian Bronson is a great account, but we're all wrong sometimes. I am no total libertarian these days, or someone who enjoys huffing hopium 24/7, but I think these are rather unfair critiques of Milei. First things first, news reports coming out, literally just in the last day or so, as I'm recording this video, suggest he has already begun dismantling the Women and Gender Equalities Ministry, and suggested plans to do this with